If you can afford to spend somewhere between $55,000 and $65,000, there are some pretty impressive sports cars coming out of Germany these days. For example, you could buy an Audi TTS or a BMW Z4. If you're dead set on going American, you could always buy a Corvette Stingray. But surely, for that price, there definitely can't be a hardcore lightweight performance product out of Porsche, can there? Actually, there is. The 2011 Boxster Spyder. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a used car back there, isn't it? You're absolutely right. In fact, it's a part of Porsche's certified pre-owned program, and that means that there really isn't a base price to talk about per se, but you can expect to spend between $58,000 and $65,000. You might remember this car uses the same 3.4-liter flat six as its more common siblings, but in this case, it's tuned to put out 320 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. To be specific, that's an increase of 10 horsepower and 7 pound-feet of torque. These things sold with a 6-speed manual or optionally a 7-speed PDK, but most importantly, Porsche went absolutely crazy when they built this thing and cut the curb weight down to just over 2,800 pounds. Officially, PDK-equipped models are supposed to get 20 miles per gallon in the city, 29 on the highway, or a combined 23. Okay, remember when I told you that Porsche went a little bit crazy in throwing things out to save weight with this car? Well, the same goes for the interior, and I can just imagine what the conversations must have sounded like between the marketing team and the engineers. Okay, so we let you get rid of the rooftop mechanism. That's enough for lightweighting now, right? 9! Okay, is it gonna have a radio? 9! What about air conditioning? 9! Door handles? 9, 9, 9, 9, 9! So some of that stuff actually was available as an option for no extra cost. For example, this car was sold with a radio and also with air conditioning, but there's really no getting around it once you start sitting in it that this is a hardcore sports car. For example, it uses lighter weight sports seats. And for some perspective, I have a 29-inch waist and I wear a 36-inch blazer, and these seats feel snug on me. I can't imagine being somebody much bigger than I am and feeling very comfortable in this car. But even with all the lightweighting, Porsche's typical attention to detail is present here. The stitching is precise. Everything feels like it was went over more than once before it left the factory, and even after a few years on the road, the car seems to be holding together very, very well. By default, the Boxster Spyder comes with a special sport suspension that sees it sitting lower to the ground than the Boxster S. It also comes with specifically lightened wheels that help contribute to the supermodel diet that put this car at such a light curb weight. Keep in mind that as a car from the 2011 model year, this is a part of the 987 generation, so some of the parts might look a little bit outdated. Except this is where Porsche's slowly evolving design comes in handy, because this thing still has a stylish looking face. And then there's the rear end. Porsche owners and passers-by all tend to give the Spyder a second look because of its unusual backside. Instead of a conventional convertible mechanism, you get sort of a two-piece canvas canopy that looks nothing like the normal Boxster's top. Peeling it off is a bit of a hassle, but you're gonna love what's underneath. Okay, full disclosure, what you saw there was the very first time that I tried to take the roof off of this car, and to be honest, I think I could probably do it quite a bit faster with a little bit more practice. Still, it would make me think twice before taking it off if there was any chance of rain. Then again, how cool is it that you get to drive around in a car that looks like it was modeled after the Carrera GT? Okay, so there's a couple of things you're gonna notice as soon as you get into the Boxster Spyder. One, there's not a lot of space, which is, I guess, true for any Boxster, but for example, I don't have much room to move my left arm over, aside from having it on the steering wheel. And then two, it's really not a very quiet car to sit in. Keep in mind, Porsche used aluminum panels on the doors and also to cover the area where I put the soft top down to save weight, but that also means that sound deadening really was not a priority. This car specifically has the optional Sport exhaust and also the Sport Chrono package and of course the 7-speed PDK. So things get even louder when you push the exhaust button and put it into Sport Plus. But it's also a lot of fun because the Sport Chrono package also gives you launch control, which pushes the 0 to 60 time down to 4.6 seconds. Now for comparison, Porsche says the manual model will hit 60 miles an hour in about 0.3 seconds longer than this car is capable of doing it. To be honest, as much as I love the PDK, I'd take that speed penalty any day of the week. Don't get me wrong, I love the PDK transmission, but it's just a little bit heartbreaking to think that there could be a third pedal in this car, and there isn't. This car's first owner also paid for the optional ceramic composite brakes, and that makes this thing able to stop on a dime. I mean, watch. And we continue. 320 horsepower might not sound like a whole lot, especially when you remember that for about the same price as this car, you could get something like, say, a Shelby GT500 that has literally double the horsepower that this offers. Still, you got to keep in mind that this car weighs about as much as a Scion FRS, so 320 horsepower feels pretty powerful. Now, then again, this is a Porsche, and it's not all about having tons and tons of raw power. It's also about handling, and that this thing does perfectly. At least that part about the FRS is partially true. If this car were optioned as Porsche intended, with a manual transmission and without air conditioning or, the stereo, then it would actually weigh just about 26 pounds more than the FRS. Still, it's amazing how nimble this car feels. And keep in mind that it's from the 987 generation rather than the 981, which means that it has hydraulic power steering instead of electric power steering, which just gives it a really direct, connected feeling with the road while you're steering. You feel every little bump and crack, and you just have this unbelievable sense of exactly what the wheels are doing when you start to go into a corner. Having first been introduced to the market for the 2011 model year, Porsche Boxster Spyders that were first leased are now starting to show up in showrooms, and that means one thing to you. You have a second chance to buy one of the coolest Boxster models ever built, and best of all, it still comes with a 2-year and up to 50,000-mile warranty. No, it's not one of the most technologically advanced Boxsters that you can buy, but if you ask me, it is definitely one of the coolest.